In Italy, it's not about the gifts, it's about the presepio, the feast, the faith, and the fire that still burns in every home. Imagine a place where Christmas isn't just celebrated, it's carved into stone, baked into bread, and passed down through centuries. This is Italy, a country where December is sacred, where food tells stories, and where family becomes a cathedral of memory. From the ancient Roman Saturnalia to the spiritual silence of the midnight mass, from candlelit processions to the mysterious visit of La Befana, this is a Christmas unlike any other. This is Natale. And this is the story of how Italy made Christmas eternal. Long before Italy was the Italy we know today, before unification, before cathedrals rose, and cobbled streets wound through medieval towns. It was a land of ancient rites, sacred fires, and seasonal feasts. The Italian Christmas, or Natale, is not a modern invention. It is the evolution of centuries. The layering of the sacred over the seasonal, of local folklore over global faith, of pagan warmth under Christian reverence. To understand Natale, we must begin not with the birth of Christ, but with the feast of Saturnalia, the ancient Roman festival held in mid-December. Saturnalia was a time of reversal. Slaves dined with masters, gambling was allowed, and homes filled with candles and revelry. Gifts were exchanged, meals were lavish, and joy was not optional. It was expected. The echoes of Saturnalia are still present in today's Christmas. The lights, the feasts, the giving, the loosening of daily structures in favor of celebration. When Christianity took root in the Roman Empire, the birth of Christ was strategically positioned in December to overlay the old with the new. But the soul of the season, the need for light and darkness, for gathering in cold, for remembering life in the face of winter's stillness, remained. By the 4th century, Rome had declared December 25th as the celebration of Jesus' birth. And from there, across the Italian peninsula, Natale began to take its form. But it wasn't just Rome that shaped this tradition. It was the villages, the artisans, the faithful. One of the most profound influences came in the 13th century, when St. Francis of Assisi, deeply moved by a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, sought to bring the Nativity to life. In 1223, in the town of Greccio, he created the first live nativity scene, a reenactment with people, animals, hay, and reverent silence. This moment forever transformed Christmas. The story of Christ's birth was no longer distant or abstract. It became tangible, local, visible. People didn't just hear the story. They could see it, feel it, and enter it. From this point forward, the Presepio, the nativity scene, became the spiritual and artistic heart of the Italian Christmas. Artisans across the country began crafting figurines from terracotta, wood, wax, and porcelain. Entire families dedicated their lives to the creation of presepi, adding not just biblical characters, but local tradespeople, bakers, shepherds, fishmongers, children. The sacred story blended with everyday life. A carpenter next to Mary, a fish seller beside the Magi, and it was beautiful. Each region added its own flair. In Naples, presepi became Baroque masterpieces, filled with drama and motion. In the Alps, they were carved from pine. In Sicily, made of clay and painted with vibrant detail. Over time, the presepio wasn't just a religious object, it became a mirror of the Italian soul. But tradition isn't static. It evolves. During the Renaissance and Baroque eras, noble families and churches commissioned ever more elaborate nativity displays. Meanwhile, rural villagers kept the tradition alive with simplicity, often passing down figures wrapped in cloth, stored in cedar chests, brought out each December like treasured relics. Alongside the nativity, other customs grew. The seppo, a wooden Christmas tree of shelves decorated with candles and gifts. The urn of fate, where family members drew names and gave symbolic presents. Zampugnar, shepherd musicians who traveled from the hills playing traditional bagpipes in honor of the Christ child. By the 19th and 20th centuries, as Italy began to unify politically, it also began to share these regional Christmas customs more broadly through literature, music, migration, and, eventually, television. But no matter how the country changed, one truth endured. In Italy, Christmas is never just about history. It is about connection to past generations, to place, to faith, and to one another. The ancient roots of Natale do not lie buried beneath the modern season. They are woven into it. They are what give it strength, flavor, texture. When an Italian child today kneels before a presepio or opens a handmade advent calendar, they are participating in something millennial. And when the bells of Rome ring out on Christmas Eve, they do not just mark a date. They ring in a tradition as rich, layered, and enduring as the land itself. In Italy, faith is not confined to stone walls or gilded altars. It moves through streets, kitchens, voices, and rituals that transform the sacred into something profoundly lived. Christmas, or Natale, is not just a holy day, but a season of embodied belief, where every candle lit, every hymn sung, every gesture made is a form of devotion. And nowhere is this more vivid than in the religious rituals that shape the Italian December. It begins, always, with Messa di Mezzanotte, midnight mass. On the night of December 24th, Italian towns, cities, and countryside parishes alike swell with worshippers. From the grand nave of St. Peter's Basilica, where the Pope himself leads the liturgy, to tiny stone chapels in alpine villages, the Mass is central. It is not only an act of religious observance, it is a gathering, a moment of collective reverence before the celebration begins. Candles flicker in arched alcoves. The scent of incense drifts like memory. Choirs sing Tu scendi dagli stali, Italia's most beloved Christmas, hymn a lullaby to the Christ child that calls even the weariest soul to stillness. For many, the Mass is preceded by a family meal, light yet symbolic, perhaps soup, bread, and fish, followed by dressing in layers and walking through the cold, often with children in tow, toward the church. Streets are quiet but glowing, and when the church bells ring out, it's not just time, it's invitation. Faith, in this moment, is not passive. It is motion. It is stepping into the night to find light. It is entering sacred space together, and yet, Italian Christmas extends far beyond this holy hour. From the 25th of December to the 6th of January, the season stretches like a warm hand across winter. This period, known as the 12 Days of Christmas, is rich with symbolism, song, and sacred memory. But it culminates not with a feast, but with a visitor. Her name is La Befana. On the night of January 5th, Italian children hang stockings and place out treats, not for Santa Claus, but for a weathered, broom-riding woman wrapped in shawls and legend. La Befana is neither witch nor fairy, but something between a folkloric figure whose roots run deep in pre-Christian belief and medieval imagination. According to legend, she was visited by the Magi on their way to Bethlehem. They invited her to join their journey, but she declined. Regretful, she now flies across the skies every Epiphany Eve, delivering gifts to children in hopes of finding the Christ child once more. She brings candy to the good, coal to the naughty, and always a sense of wonder. In cities like Rome, Florence, and Venice, the arrival of La Befana is celebrated with festivals, parades, and markets. In small towns, local women may dress in shawls and distribute sweets. And in every home where children believe, the magic of her presence feels real and beautifully different from the commercial North Pole stories known elsewhere. This blend of Christian doctrine and folk mythology is deeply Italian. It reflects a culture that doesn't just practice faith, it narrates it, reenacts it, weaves it into local soil and family routine. This is why so many Italian villages host live nativity scenes, presépio viventi, where townspeople play shepherds, angels, and innkeepers. Roads are closed. Animals are led through people. Entire communities become Bethlehem, not as spectacle, but as remembrance. And the story is always brought home. In every nativity scene, there's one figure never placed until December 25th, the baby Jesus. Some families even have children hide the figurine until midnight mass is over, then place it gently in the manger. A small act, a sacred pause, a whisper of arrival. Faith in Italy is personal, tactile, seasonal. It is baked into bread, sung at dusk, walked beneath stars, It moves in the way people greet each other, in the signs of the cross made at crowded tables, in the candles lit on windowsills and altar steps. And though the year may bring change, hardship, or distance, Natale offers a single truth, one that can be heard in the toll of a midnight bell, or the quiet crinkle of stockings left for La Befana, that hope still visits, that light still comes, that faith still moves, even in the hush of a winter night. In Italy, Christmas is not just something you feel, it's something you taste. The spirit of Natale lives in kitchens that smell like home, in recipes preserved like family heirlooms, and in tables so full they seem to bend beneath the weight of love, memory, and tradition. Here, food is not just nourishment, it is language, ritual, and celebration. And it all begins on La Vigilia, Christmas Eve. Across Italy! This night is sacred, not only in church, but in the home. Families gather for Cena de la Vigilia, the Vigil Supper, a meal steeped in both religious observance and culinary joy. Because of Catholic tradition, it is a meatless meal, but that doesn't mean it's simple. In many parts of the country, particularly in the south, families observe the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Though the number can vary, it may be 7, 9, even 13, depending on the family and region, but the heart of the feast remains a celebration of the sea. Tables fill with bacala salt cod, fried or stewed calamari, sometimes stuffed, sometimes grilled, vongole, clams, served over pasta, scampi, mussels, anchovies, and sometimes il capito, a delicacy particularly popular in Naples and Rome. Each dish is prepared with care, often using olive oil, garlic, parsley, lemon, the flavors of the Mediterranean that speak of both simplicity and abundance. In the north, the traditions differ. Families might enjoy risotto with seafood, vegetable torts, or polenta with mushrooms. In the Alps, hearty stews and cabbage rolls are common, especially in regions with Austrian or Swiss influence. No matter the ingredients, the experience is the same. Long tables, multiple generations, courses that stretch late into the night, laughter, wine, pauses for storytelling, and second servings. Then comes Christmas Day, and with it, the meat returns. Il pranzo di Natale, the Christmas lunch, is often the most elaborate meal of the year. It might begin with antipasti cured meats, marinated vegetables, cheeses, then a pasta course. Maybe lasagna, ravioli or tortellini, in brodo tani pasta in clear broth. The main course could be roast lamb, stuffed capon, or porchetta slow roasted. Pork seasoned with rosemary and fennel. Side dishes abound. Roasted potatoes, sautéed greens, lentils, artichokes. And, of course, baskets of fresh bread. But no Italian meal ends without dolce desserts that are both festive and deeply rooted in tradition. Most iconic is the panettone, a tall, domed sweetbread filled with candied fruit and raisins, originally from Milan, served in slices. Often with mascarpone cream or a glass of spumante, it has become a symbol of Christmas not only in Italy, but around the world. In Verona, there's pandoro softa, without fruit, dusted with powdered sugar to resemble the snowy Alps. Other regional desserts include Torre nougat with almonds and honey, struffoli, small fried dough balls glazed in honey, popular in Naples candlelit, crispy spirals drizzled with wine syrup, common in Puglia cagionetti, pastry filled with chestnuts and chocolate, from Abruzzo mastaccioli spiced cookies, often cut in diamond shapes and coated in dark chocolate. Each treat tells a story of grandmothers, of forgotten ovens, of wartime sweetness when sugar was rare. These are not just desserts, they are keepsakes in edible form. Even after the table is cleared, the Christmas spirit continues, with leftovers lovingly stored and shared in the days that follow, often culminating in a casual but cozy meal on Santo Stefano, December 26th, the feast of Saint Stephen. Wine flows freely throughout the season, and many families uncork their finest bottles for these occasions, from Chianti in Tuscany to Primitivo in Puglia. But above all, the Italian Christmas table is a celebration of presents. It is where love is made visible, where history is served warm, where a bite of Turin can trigger a memory from 30 winters ago. Because in Italy, to cook for someone is to say, "You matter." And to gather around the table again and again is to practice the greatest Christmas tradition of all, to feast not just with the mouth, but with the heart. If there is one object that captures the spirit of Christmas in Italy, its faith, its craftsmanship, its intimacy, it is the Presepio, the nativity scene. More than decoration, the Italian nativity is an act of devotion, a canvas of belief, a living art form shaped not just by hands, but by memory, culture, and regional pride. While nativity scenes are common in many Christian cultures, Italy treats the Presepio not as a passive display, but as something sacredly alive. It is not uncommon for a family's entire Christmas rhythm to revolve around it. From choosing the placement of each figure to the silent ritual of adding baby Jesus on the night of December 24th, the roots of this tradition go back to a single moment in history. In 1223, in a small hilltop village called Greccio, St. Francis of Assisi gathered villagers in a cave using real animals, hay, and humble participants. He staged the first live nativity, a moment that brought the spiritual story of Christ's birth into the tangible world of peasants and shepherds. It was no longer just a tale heard in church. It could now be seen, touched, and felt. From that moment, the Presepio spread across Italy, evolving into one of its most enduring and meaningful traditions. In Naples, the Presepio Napoletano became its own artistic genre. Along the narrow street of Via San Gregorio Armeno, artisans spend all year crafting terracotta and wooden figurines, not just of Mary, Joseph, and the Magi, but of butchers, bakers, fruit vendors, musicians, and even politicians. These scenes don't just depict Bethlehem. They merged the sacred with the local and the present. You might see the Holy Family nestled beside a pizza oven or a Roman aqueduct. This blend is intentional. For Neapolitans, the Nativity is not a distant biblical event. It is a mirror of their world, a reminder that divinity can dwell in everyday life. In Rome, Florence, and Bologna, museums and churches hold prosepi that are true masterpieces, carved from ivory, sculpted from marble, or painted with the detail of Renaissance icons. But even the most lavish displays cannot rival the warmth of the home nativity, often built over generations, passed down like a spiritual inheritance. In homes, prosepi might be modest. A small wooden stable, ceramic figures wrapped in tissue paper, a candle flickering beside the manger. Or they might be expansive. Entire miniature villages built with moss, lights, running water, even working mills and mountains made from cardboard and plaster. Each region adds its own touches. In Puglia, you might see truly conical houses in the background. In Sicily, lava stone and local landscapes are incorporated. In Trentino, alpine settings with shepherds and goats dominate. In Lazio, the figures wear traditional Roman garb. Many families make a ritual of building the Presepio together. Often beginning on December 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, children help unpack figurines and arrange the scene, sometimes adding humorous or fantastical elements. It is not unusual to see a tiny shepherd holding a smartphone, proof that tradition and modernity can, in Italy, hold hands. Beyond homes, presepi viventi, live nativity performances are staged in towns across the country. Entire communities participate, transforming village squares, olive groves, or cave systems into Bethlehem. Visitors walk through candlelit paths, watching scenes of village life. Angels announcing news, shepherds playing flutes, and finally, the manger. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about the Italian Presepio is how it turns faith into narrative. It invites contemplation, not just of Christ's birth, but of one's own place in the story. It allows each viewer to step closer, to see the ordinary alongside the divine, to feel that their own daily life might also be part of something sacred. Because in Italy, the Nativity is not static. It is seasonal storytelling. It is heritage with a heartbeat. And when Christmas ends, the figures are carefully wrapped, The stable is folded away, but something lingers. The memory of a candlelit village, the joy of placing the Christ child in his cradle, the feeling, deep and quiet, that in the most humble corners of our lives, the sacred is always near. There is something unmistakably enchanting about the Italian night in December. The way the lights shimmer on cobblestone streets, the way choirs echo off ancient stone, the way the air holds a kind of hush that feels like an invitation to pause. In Italy, Christmas is not only seen and tasted, it is heard, smelled, and felt. It's a full-body experience, where music and markets come together to create nights that feel enchanted. In the weeks leading up to Natale, cities and villages across Italy transform into open-air stages. Streets are strung with twinkling lights, piazzas fill with stalls, and from early evening until late at night, there's a steady hum of conversation, laughter, and song. Let's begin with the music. Italy's Christmas soundscape is deeply traditional, less commercial, more soulful. At the heart of it all is Tu scendi dai stei, You Come Down from the Stars, a gentle hymn composed in the 18th century by Saint Alphonsus. It's sung in homes, churches, and schools. Its melody simple, almost lullaby-like, evoking the tenderness of a child's birth. You'll hear it in midnight mass, as choirs fill ancient cathedrals with layered harmony, town squares, where small vocal groups perform for passersby children's voices, slightly off-key, but full of devotion and charm. And it's not just hymns. In rural areas, especially in central and southern Italy, Zampocnare shepherd musicians descend from the hills, dressed in traditional cloaks and hats, playing bagpipes and flutes. Their haunting, rustic tunes are among the oldest Christmas sounds in the country, and they serve as living links to the shepherds of Bethlehem. When a Zampagnaro plays outside your home or shop, it is not just music, it is a blessing. Meanwhile, urban centers like Rome, Florence, and Naples come alive with classical concerts, often held in churches, museums, and orchestras perform works by Vivaldi and Corelli, and choirs sing carols in Latin, Italian, and local dialects. But it's not all solemnity. There's joy, too, especially in the Mercatini di Natale, Italy's Christmas markets. Though not originally an Italian tradition, they began in Germany and Austria. Christmas markets have found a natural home here, blending Alpine charm with Italian flavor. In Bolzano and Trento, the markets feel straight out of a snow globe wooden huts selling hand-carved ornaments, steaming mugs of vin brule, mulled wine, cinnamon sugar pastries, wool scarves, and miniature. In Milan, the Obege market is held around the Sforza Castle, where artisans sell vintage toys, jewelry, and sweets near fire pits and live bands. In Florence, the Santa Croce market offers both German and Tuscan delights, bratwurst beside lederhosen beside leather journals. Even small towns host their own versions, often on weekends, with local artisans displaying lacework, pottery, soaps, and sweets under glowing lights. Each one has its own flavor, shaped by geography, history, and heart. And then there's the smell of these nights: roasted chestnuts, melted chocolate, citrus peels and cloves, fresh pine and beeswax candles. This aromatic blend hangs in the air, mingling with church bells and the murmur of loved ones walking arm in arm. In Sometone's light shows dance across the facades of old buildings, turning medieval walls into moving canvases of snowflakes, angels, or starry skies. In others, small theatrical performances or puppet shows keep children wide-eyed and parents nostalgic. And always, there is the sky, crisp, starlit, quietly watching as these rituals unfold below. There's something uniquely Italian about this balance of reverence and revelry. The solemnity of sacred music beside the chatter of a busy stall, the weight of centuries beside a child sipping hot chocolate with wide, wondering eyes. Because Christmas in Italy is not a curated display. It is life itself, illuminated. It is the fusion of sacred story and street celebration. It is a culture that knows how to honor the past while delighting in the present. It is a night where strangers sing together, where families linger longer, and where even the stones underfoot seem to remember the steps of generations. So when the music fades, and the markets close, and the hush returns, you realize it wasn't just a magical night. It was a night full of meaning, lived, shared, and remembered. In Italy, family is not just a part of Christmas, it is Christmas. More than decorations, more than food, more than the songs and lights and rituals, it is the faces around the table, the memories echoed in stories, and the warmth of generations that make Natale what it truly is. Not a holiday, but a homecoming. Unlike other countries where the Christmas season might be marked by individualism or retail frenzy, Italy moves in a different rhythm, one defined by togetherness. From the moment the first decorations are pulled from attic boxers to the final meal of the season on Epiphany, everything centers around La Famiglia. It begins with a preparation, often led by the older generation, grandparents, great-aunts, patriarchs, and matriarchs. The planning for Christmas involves the entire family tree. The shopping lists, the cleaning, the seating charts, the exact timing of the meal, the question of whether to make ravioli or lasagna this year. Everyone has a role, a memory, a responsibility, and those roles are honored, not avoided. Because in Italy, tradition isn't something quaint. It is a thread of continuity, tying the present to the past. You see it most clearly in the kitchen, a grandmother stirring polenta with the same wooden spoon she used as a girl, a father slicing panettone with the same care his father did, a child watching, absorbing, becoming the next link in the chain. There's laughter, of course. Big, loud, overlapping laughter. But there's also reverence for the meal, for the time, for the fact that, in a world that spins faster every year, they are still here, together. Many Italian families span generations from infants to elders in their 90s, and Christmas is one of the rare times when all those ages share the same space, the same room, the same warmth. There's always someone telling a story. Always someone to full but eating one more bite. Always someone sneaking a candy to a child under the table. The fireplace crackles, the table glows with candles. A record hums quietly in the corner. And across the room, someone says, "Ti ricordi quel Natale?" Do you remember that Christmas? And just like that, the room becomes a cathedral of memory. Christmas, for Italians, is a way to preserve legacy, to tell the stories of ancestors who once stood in the same doorway, wore the same apron, stirred the same sauce. It's not nostalgia, it's connection, a living remembrance. That says, te, vere, erre, and because of them, so are we. This familial closeness is not confined to December 25th. It extends through the 12 days, through Santo Stefano, through New Year's, until la Befana, each day offering another chance to gather, to eat, to reflect. Even the gifts exchanged are often small, symbolic, or homemade. The true gift is the time, the long dinners, the slow mornings, the unhurried walks through town, hand in hand. And when someone is missing because of distance, or illness, or loss, their place is still felt. A seat remembered, a dish still prepared in their honor. A toast raised with misty eyes and a gentle smile. Because in Italy, family is not just who's present, it's also who's remembered. This is what makes the Italian Christmas so deeply moving. It's not just about celebration. It's about continuity, a circle that never breaks, a fire that stays lit, a tradition that doesn't ask to be reinvented. Only kept, even in cities filled with noise and light, even in apartments far from ancestral homes, even when families are scattered, Italians find a way to recreate that core of warmth. They call, they write, they send a parcel of biscotti. They gather when they can. And when they do, it's as if nothing was ever missing. Because to be Italian at Christmas is to know this one sacred truth, that what matters most is not what's under the tree. It's who's around the table, and that even if the years change, the people grow older, and the world moves on. the fire of family still burns. As the last candle flickers out and the final crumbs of panettone are brushed from the tablecloth, something quiet begins to settle across Italy. A silence not of ending, but of echo. Because in this country of ruins and relics, of ancient cities and eternal traditions, nothing truly disappears. And Christmas remains, not just in the decorations, which are carefully wrapped and stored for another year, not just in the leftover ravioli or the bottle of wine saved for Epiphany, but in the feeling, the warm, invisible thread that lingers long after the season fades. In Italy, Natale is not simply an event to be celebrated. It is a way of remembering who we are and what holds us together. It's a mirror held up to our better selves, patient, joyful, generous, connected. And though the lights may dim and the markets close, the essence of Christmas, the part that matters, stays with us. It stays in the scent of oranges that cling to your hands, in the sound of Ioanna's voice retelling the same story, again, because you laughed last time, in the aftertaste of wine and words shared freely, like offerings, in the memory of Mass, of zampognare in the street, of cold air and warm smiles. This is the kind of Christmas that becomes part of you, because Christmas in Italy is not a production, it is a memory machine. It gathers up the laughter, the traditions, the meals, and the love, and gently places them in your chest like embers. And when January comes, and the decorations come down, and the world resumes its noise, those embers stay warm. They glow every time you unwrap a cherished ornament. They flicker when you fold a tablecloth, still dusted with flour and joy. They light up when a certain carol drifts through a radio in June, and suddenly you re-back. Around the table, wrapped in warmth. Home, that is what Il Natale che raimin truly means. The Christmas that stays. Not because of but because of intention. Not because it was perfect, but because it was present. And if this story of Italy's Christmas traditions touched your heart, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. What time is it where you are? What Christmas tradition from your life feels like the one you'd never give up? And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to World Traditions, and share it with someone who believes that beauty lives in the details. Tomorrow, we travel again. Another land, another celebration, another reminder that even though our customs differ, our longing for connection is the same. But tonight, take a breath. Hold onto the silence. Let the embers glow. Because Natale doesn't end, it becomes part of you.